My mother-in-law insulted my parents. I talked back once. My husband slammed my head into the wall. I froze 10 billion. I called in Triad Brother San. No one's leaving here today. As Guyanji grabbed my hair and slammed my head into the wall, I heard the crack of my own skull. Like stepping on thin ice in winter. Warm blood streamed down my brow bone into my eyes. The world turned into a blurry red haze. And my mother-in-law, Wang Guilan, stood just a few steps away, a trace of a sneer still lingering at the corner of her mouth. As if her son wasn't beating a person, but disciplining a disobedient dog. I lay on the floor, ears ringing, vaguely hearing her shrill voice. Continue. Hit her good. This ungrateful wretch. She deserved it. How dare she talk back to her mother-in-law? My parents sat at the other end of the dining table. Mom was slumped in her chair, sobbing. Dad clenched his fists, his whole body trembling, but he didn't even dare stand up. They took a 6-hour slow train from the countryside to attend their son-in-law's 30th birthday party. In their arms, they carried walnuts they'd hand-shelled for a whole month, and air-dried cured meat they'd prepared for half a year, wrapped in red paper, scared city folk would find it dirty. But when Wang Guilan took those things, she didn't even look, just tossed them by the shoe cabinet, like they were trash to be thrown out. And then, at the dinner table, in front of all the relatives, she said in that condescending tone, "In-laws, so kind of you to grace us. But honestly, country folk, your perspective is narrow. Talking to us city people, it's like we're on different wavelengths." Mom's eyes welled up. Dad clenched his fist under the table, then let go. Watching them get humiliated, too scared to make a sound. That last thread I held for 3 years finally snapped. I put down my chopsticks. My voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to silence the whole room. Mom, my parents are farmers. The soil they've worked is cleaner than the carpets you've walked on. The food they grow, it nourishes more than your fake respectability. Has nothing to do with where you live. It has to do with the heart. First time I talked back in 3 years. 3 years ago, I was 23, a fresh graduate from a regular university. When I married Guyanji, when he was pursuing me, he said, he loved me for my purity, that money had nothing to do with it. To protect that purity, I hid my true identity completely. I am the youngest daughter of Shen Heading, founder of Shen Holdings. My prenuptial trust fund alone is worth over 9.9 billion. But I never told him, because I naively believed love shouldn't be measured by money. After we married, we moved into his 120 square meter 3-bedroom apartment. I made 12 grand a month, 9 to 5, subway commute. His salary went straight to his mom. My salary had to cover the mortgage, utilities, HOA fees, buy his mom's supplements, pay his cousin's tuition, buy his sister designer bags. Guyanji would always say, "Wanqing, just cover it for now. When my project bonus comes through, I'll pay you back." But 3 years passed, and not a single dime. He didn't even mention it anymore. I thought, if I were just patient enough, he'd see it one day. He'd see how good I was. But what was the reality? Wang Guilan would drop by every other day to inspect our lives, criticizing my every habit, micromanaging everything, hated my cooking, said I didn't mop right, said my clothes were too plain, said I couldn't talk right. Once, I worked overtime until 10 at night before getting home. She said right in front of Guyanji, "Look at your wife, out there flaunting herself all day, not tending to the Gu family. What kind of behavior is this?" Guyanji stayed silent then. After Wang Guilan left, he slapped me, said I'd disrespected his mom. That was the first time he hit me. Then came the second time. The third, countless times, from slaps to fists. He dragged my hair, smashed my head into the table. He'd come to me the next day with red-rimmed eyes, apologizing, saying he'd just lost control, saying it was because he cared too much. And every single time, I forgave him, because I believed him. I believed his last time. Until tonight. He grabbed my hair, in front of my parents and his relatives, and slammed my head into the wall. In that instant, the blood and the fog in my brain churned together. But I'd never been clearer. I saw Gu Yanji's twisted, vicious face. I saw Wang Guilan's smug, triumphant smile. I saw the room full of relatives, some horrified, others gleefully watching the show. I saw my dad finally lurch to his feet, trying to rush over, only to be shoved back into his chair by Gu Yanji's cousin. And I saw it. The last look in my mom's eyes before she fainted. It was despair, heartbreak for her daughter, and complete, utter hopelessness for this family. Gu Yanji let go of my hair. He stood over me, chest heaving, looking down. Still cursing. Shen Wanqing. Listen up. Now that you're married into the Gu family, you follow Gu family rules. Your parents didn't teach you properly. I'll do it. Blood drips. 2 drops. 3 drops. I didn't cry. I didn't even tremble. Slowly, eerily calm, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. I wiped the blood off it. Scrolled to a number I hadn't dialed in 3 years. Pressed call. It rang once. Hello? The voice on the other end was low, like a cello in the dead of night. It carried an undeniable, oppressive weight. I opened my mouth. My voice was quiet, but steady. Too steady for someone who'd just been on the floor. Second brother. Come get me. A 2-second silence on the line. Then that voice came back. This time, laced with something I'd heard before. Something that could freeze the marrow in your bones. Where? I gave the address. Wait. The call ended. The living room was so quiet you could hear the clock tick. Gu Yanji was stunned. He clearly didn't expect me to have the strength to make a call. Wang Guilan was the first to snap out of it. Hands on her hips, she shrieked with laughter. Calling for help, Shen Wanqing? You're just some country bumpkin girl. What important people? Stop pretending. Gu Yanji recovered too. His expression shifted from shock to pure scorn. Shen Wanqing, who the hell are you trying to scare? You can't even afford tickets. Fine. Let's see who you can bring. If no one shows, you're gonna have a real bad night. I ignored him. I didn't even look at him again. I just slowly stood up. Leaned against the wall, pressed my hand to the wound on my forehead. The blood kept flowing, but I couldn't feel the pain anymore. What I felt was something inside me, asleep for so long, starting to wake up, like a beast locked away too long. Finally catching the scent of rust on its cage. Time ticked by. About 10 minutes later. The sound of engines came from downstairs. Not one car. A whole convoy. A low, rumbling roar, getting closer. Like some giant beast was approaching. The Gu family relatives crowded to the window to look down. And then, one by one, their faces twisted into expressions of sheer terror. Oh my God. Is that? Those are Maybachs. 3 cars. Look at those men. Downstairs, 6 black sedans were parked in a perfect line. The doors opened simultaneously. Out stepped over a dozen men in black suits. Men with wireless earpieces, moving in perfect unison. Like machines controlled by a single brain. The man leading them stands over 6 feet tall. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, a perfectly tailored black overcoat. His face is cold and sharp as a blade. And glances in our direction. Even from a floor away, I can feel it. The chill in his gaze. Gu Yanji's face goes pale. He stammers, Wanqing, who are these people? I don't answer, because that man is already entering the stairwell. The sound of his footsteps echoes through the stairway. Deliberate. Measured. Like a countdown. The doorbell rings. No one dares to answer. A black-suited bodyguard simply pushes the door open. The lock in his hand might as well be made of paper. He scans the living room situation. His eyes pause on my face for a second, then he steps aside. The man in the black overcoat walks in. His dress shoes make no sound on the cheap floor tiles. But the air in the entire living room seems to have been sucked dry. Everyone instinctively shrinks back. Even breathing becomes a hushed, careful act. His gaze sweeps past Gu Yanji. Past Wang Guilan. Past all the relatives cowering in the corners, trembling. Finally, it lands on me. On the wound on my forehead. That's still oozing blood. In that instant, I see it clearly. Something in his eyes shatters. And in the shards, a fire ignites. He strides over to me. His movements are incredibly gentle as he reaches out, using his thumb to wipe the blood from my face. His hand is trembling. Shin Yanzhou, the second son of Shin Heading, one of the feared leaders of Shin Holdings. His hand is trembling. Who did this? His voice is quiet, like the final second of silence before a storm. I don't speak. I just tilt my head slightly, looking toward Gu Yanji. Shin Yanzhou follows my line of sight. Gu Yanji stumbles back 3 steps from that one look, knocking over the chair behind him, landing in a heap on the floor. He tries to stand, but his legs are like wet noodles. Why you? Who are you? What do you want? I'm warning you. This is a family matter. His voice quivers. All bluster and no bite, like a chicken with its neck wrung. Shin Yanzhou ignores him. He takes off his own overcoat and drapes it over my shoulders. Then he turns, addressing the black-suited bodyguards at the door. He says just 3 words. Clear the room. They move. They don't use violence, but the sheer pressure is more terrifying than any blow. They work in pairs. He walked up to those relatives and made a please leave gesture. His gaze was as cold as looking at the dead. Those relatives who were just strutting around, mocking my parents, now scrambled out on all fours. They didn't even dare to turn back for their dropped shoes. Wang Guilin tried to say something, but a bodyguard clamped a hand on her shoulder. She let out a shriek, and then it was like her throat was squeezed shut. She couldn't speak. Was empty except for me, Shin Yanzhou, the collapsed forms of Gu Yanji and Wang Guilin, and my parents. Shin Yanzhou crouched down. His eyes met mine. He looked at the wound on my forehead. His voice was hoarse, raw. Wanqing. I'm sorry. Your brother was late. I shook my head and said something that made his eyes well up. Second brother. I want to go home. He squeezed his eyes shut hard. When they opened again, all that was left in them was cold ruthlessness. He stood up and said to his assistant behind him, notify legal. Draft the divorce papers. Seize this property. Nothing inside is to be touched. Pull all the security footage from tonight. Preserve the evidence. Contact the city's central hospital. Have their top trauma surgeon on standby. With every word he said, Gu Yanji's face grew a shade paler. And Shin Yanzhou added one last line. His voice quiet but sharp as a nail. Driving into the bone of everyone present. Audit every single cent Gu Yanji has spent these past years. I want to know his salary account. His project bonuses, every single transfer. Leave no stone unturned. Gu Yanji collapsed completely onto the floor. Only then did the belated realization hit him. All the money he'd spent these 3 years, the apartment he lived in, the car he drove, none of it was ever his. It was mine, Shen Wanqing's. It belonged to the Shen family's young miss, Shen Wanqing. He was just a prop I picked up on a whim, to play at experiencing a commoner's life. And now, the prop's expiration date is up. Shin Yanzhou helped me walk out. Passing by Wang Guilin, I paused. She was slumped on the floor. Face ghostly pale, lips trembling, trying to speak, but unable to. Her eyes held fear, and bitter resentment. There's anger, but even more than that, there's disbelief. She can't believe it. That daughter-in-law she bossed around, humiliated at will for 3 years, has such a massive background. I look down at her. My tone is flat as if I'm commenting on the weather. Wang Guilin. You once said something I've never forgotten. You said, marry into the Gu family, follow the Gu family's rules. Now let me tell you about the Shen family's rules. Anyone who hurts my parents, won't get away with it. I don't wait for her reaction. I turn and leave. This house I lived in for 3 years. Behind me comes Wang Guilin's heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching sobs. And Gu Yanji, I don't know who he's. Screaming it on the phone. Mom, get here now. It's a disaster. Shen Wanqing, she. The door closes. It shuts out all the filth. The hypocrisy, the ugliness behind me. The smell of hospital disinfectant. Far better than Gu's greasy kitchen. The ER doctor is painstakingly careful, treating the wound on my forehead. 7 stitches. They use the finest cosmetic thread. Shenyanzhou stands behind me. He doesn't say a word the whole time, but his fists are clenched, knuckles white. By the time the wound is treated, it's past 1 a.m. Shenyanzhou doesn't take me back to the Shen family's estate in the suburbs. Instead, we go straight to the penthouse suite. He won't let mom and dad to see me like this, to worry them. I understand what he means. Our parents are the one line neither of us will cross. In the suite's living room, an assistant has already set up a laptop. Shenyanzhou has someone bring me. He watches me sip the bird's nest congee. Before he finally speaks, what's the plan? His question is direct. He doesn't ask me why I married Guyanji. He doesn't ask about the 3 years of hell I endured. Because he knows none of that matters anymore. What matters now is what I want. I put down the bowl, walk to the computer, and sit down. The screen's glow lights my face, making my expression look cold. Second brother. Hold off on deploying that 9.9 billion. Shenyanzhou raises an eyebrow. I explain. Just throwing money at them is too easy. I want them to feel despair, slowly, piece by piece. I want their pride to turn to dust. I want them to understand. You're not even worthy of begging me on your knees. Shenyanzhou's lips curled slightly. First real smile. I'll follow you. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The first thing I did wasn't to mobilize the vast resources of the Shen family. I started by liquidating my own personal assets. Guyanji and I had a joint account. It held 1.8 million in savings. Every penny I'd scraped together in 3 years of marriage. But what Guyanji didn't know was that 1.6 million of that came from before the wedding. My design commissions, my investments, my money, every single transaction, meticulously documented. The remaining 200,000 was what I'd pinched and saved from my own paycheck. His salary? 18,000 a month. Every last cent went straight to his mother, Wang Guilan. 3 years, and he never deposited a single dime, not even spare change. I logged in. Entered the password, the verification code. On the transfer page, I moved every last cent of the balance. $803,216.81. All of it, transferred to a secure, offshore account in my name alone. The moment I clicked confirm, my heart was a stone. No ripple. It was always my money. I was just taking back what was rightfully mine. Next, I opened my email. There it sat, quietly waiting. A draft of a lawyer's letter, prepared a full month ago. One of the exit strategies I'd laid for myself. I made a few quick edits to the draft. Filled in Guyanji's cell number and email address. Hit send. The letter was brutally simple. First, formally notifying Guyanji that I would be unilaterally filing for divorce. Grounds: domestic violence, irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. Second, informing him that the marital home he currently occupies is the property of Shen Wanqing, my sole, premarital asset. He has 24 hours to vacate. Third, attached, photos of the wound on my forehead, and the hospital's legally admissible injury report sent. I closed the laptop and let out a long, heavy breath. Just the first bill. The real reckoning hasn't even begun. Shenyanzhou had been sitting quietly beside me, watching the whole time. Only when I was done did he hand me a glass of warm water. Get some rest. After sunrise, the real battle begins. I nodded, but sleep was the last thing on my mind. I gaze at the city through the window. The night view is a sea of twinkling lights. 3 years ago, I gave up the entire galaxy for one man. I came to this one lamp, thinking it was warm. Now, the light is out. But it's fine. Because I am the galaxy itself. The next morning, at 10 o'clock, Guyanji's phone calls start coming in like crazy. I don't answer. Then, a barrage of incoherent text messages. Shen Wanqing, what the hell is your problem? Where's the money in the account? Where did you transfer it? That's my hard-earned money. What's with the lawyer's letter? The house is in your name? You lied to me. When we got married, you clearly said it was bought with a loan. Get your ass back here. We need to talk about this. I read each one. A cold sneer curling at the corner of my mouth. Hard-earned money? On his salary, after giving it to his mom. He had to ask me for money just to buy himself a pack of cigarettes. How did he save 1.8 million? Pathetic. Not long after, Wang Guilan's calls start coming in too. I still don't answer. Soon, my WeChat is bombarded with all sorts of messages. Gu's relatives, my colleagues, even some random so-called friends I barely know. All sending messages. Wanjing dear, between husband and wife. Can't you talk things out? Why involve lawyers? Yanji says you ran off with all the family's money. Is it true? You can't be that heartless. Shen Wanqing, I never thought you were that kind of woman. Gu Yanji treated you so well. I guess it's Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan, already starting to spread rumors, twisting the truth. Perfect. Let them make a scene. The bigger, the better. Because the higher they climb, the harder they'll fall. With their money supply cut off and facing eviction, Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan have completely lost their minds. They're like two rabid dogs backed into a corner, ready to bite with anything they've got. At 1 in the afternoon, I'm in the hotel's executive lounge, calmly having lunch. My assistant calls. Miss Shen, your former mother-in-law, Mrs. Wang Guilan, is causing a huge scene downstairs at your office building. Oh? What's she saying? I ask, intrigued. My assistant sounds hesitant. That you ran off with some other man and took all the family money. And forced her own son to sign away all his assets in the divorce. She's wailing at the entrance. She says you're an unfilial daughter. I can practically picture the whole pathetic scene. Typical Wang Guilan drama. Her usual over-the-top performance. So predictable. How's the company handling it? Security's got her, but she's causing a scene. A crowd's already gathered. Some are even filming it on their phones. Manager Wang from HR asked me to check with you. What should we do? I dabbed my mouth. Let her perform. Have security protect her. Make sure she doesn't get hit by a car, or actually hurt herself. Also, inform the media team. Have them, discreetly, leak this whole thing to those local gossip blogs and social media. Then caught my drift. Understood, Miss Shen. I'll get right on it. I hung up and went back to enjoying my lunch. Wang Guilan thinks causing a scene at my workplace will ruin my reputation and force my hand. How naive. My position at this company is purely nominal anyway. It's just a small subsidiary under a Shen Group investment portfolio. Something I arranged to get a taste of normal life. Even if she burned the whole place down, not just made a scene, it wouldn't affect me one bit. I want the whole world to watch. That way, when I finally drop the truth, the slap back will be harder. Within the hour, several local gossip blogs. Platforms pushed, woman embezzles. Heartbroken mother-in-law weeps at company doors. In the videos, Wang Guilan is on the ground, slapping her thighs. Snot and tears everywhere. An Oscar-worthy performance. The comment sections, of course, were a bloodbath aimed at me. This kind of woman is pure evil. We need to dox her. Poor auntie, such an ungrateful daughter-in-law. Women these days will do anything for money. Reading those comments, I didn't get angry. I actually found it fascinating. This is human nature, so easily swayed by surface appearances, perched on their self-righteous moral high ground, judging other people's lives without a second thought. Meanwhile, Gu Yanji wasn't sitting idle either. He was busy painting me as this greedy, venomous gold digger. He spread rumors everywhere. An alumni network he could find. He even photoshopped some fake chat logs with random men to prove I'd been cheating for ages. Suddenly, my phone was blowing up. A tidal wave of accusations and unsolicited advice came flooding in. It's like I've become the most heinous villain in the world. My parents called, their voices thick with worry. Wanqing, what in the world is going on? Why are the Gus spreading lies about you? I reassured them. Mom, Dad, don't worry. And don't pay any attention to anyone. The higher they jump now, the harder they'll fall. Trust me, I can handle this. After calming my parents, I put my phone on silent and tossed it aside. Every storm needs its opening act. This is the first brick to bring the Gu house down. By evening, my assistant called again. Miss Shen, Gu Yanji, and Wang Guilan have brought bedrolls. They're camped at the entrance with a banner. It says, "Heartless daughter-in-law Shen Wanqing. Return our hard-earned money." Excellent, I said calmly. Let them stay. The nights are cold. Be a dear and send them a couple of extra blankets. Call some reporters. I've got the headline. A plea in the cold night, the mother-in-law thrown out. Who will fight for her justice? My assistant stifled a laugh. Miss Shen, I'm on it right away. I want their little pity party to reach its peak. I want everyone to see just how pitiful they are. Because tomorrow, when the sun rises, fools. Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan will be dragged from their self-made pedestal of morality and kicked straight into the abyss. Their madness is the perfect stage I've set for their own personal hell. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. I'd slept like a baby, but for Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan, this was destined to be the darkest day of their lives. The public outcry was even more explosive than I'd anticipated. Overnight, that article, "A Plea in the Cold Night," had gone viral across every local social feed. Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan had successfully painted themselves as the perfect victims, persecuted by their wicked daughter-in-law. My name, my photos, even my ID information were doxed and plastered all over the internet. A tsunami of online hate came crashing down. My phone nearly died from the flood of harassing texts and calls. Gu Yanji, smug as ever, sent me his final ultimatum. Shen Wanqing, see that? That's what happens when you cross me. Now, return the money, kneel, and apologize to my mother. Or I'll make sure you never hold your head high again. Reading that text, I laughed. It was time. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and sent a folder I had prepared long ago to Shen Yanzhou's PR team. Inside the folder were 3 things. The first was the complete surveillance footage from the night of Gu Yanji's 30th birthday party. This tiny hidden camera, installed in the chandelier during my renovation 6 months ago. Back then, I already had a vague feeling this marriage was nearing its end. The video clearly captured how Wang Guilan used her vicious, cutting words to humiliate my parents. How I stood my ground and argued back. And how Gu Yanji brutally grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the wall. Every detail, every face, was crystal clear. The second item was detailed proof of the source of my 1.8 million in savings. Every penny I earned before marriage had corresponding bank statements and legal contracts as evidence, clearly proving that over 90% of that money was my personal premarital assets. The third item was 3 years' worth of all my WeChat chat logs with Gu Yanji. The logs were full of how he shamelessly spent my money. Buying his mother designer bags, buying his cousin the latest smartphone, paying his sister's overseas tuition fees, while begrudging me even a 300 yuan lipstick. Shen Yanzhou's PR team worked with incredible efficiency. At 9 a.m. on the company Weibo and several of the city's biggest news portals, the same self-media accounts that had crucified me the day before. An article titled "The Truth Can Never Be Buried by Lies" was simultaneously pinned and pushed to the top. The article didn't contain a single line of emotional accusation. It only calmly laid out the evidence. That 10-minute surveillance video exploded online like a bombshell. The first half of the video, with Wang Guilan's nasty, sneering face, in stark contrast to my parents' helplessness, stirred up immense public fury. And the second half, with Gu Yanji's vicious, brutal act of domestic violence, sent chills down everyone's spine. That dull thud of impact seemed to hit the heart of every single viewer. If the video was the emotional gut punch, then the following financial proof and chat logs. The logical kill shot. A man living off his wife's money. He's respectable but cruel to his wife. And because his wife stood up to his bitter, sharp-tongued mother, this gold-digging wife-beater's image is clear now. The tables have turned. Yesterday, people sympathized with Wang Guilan. Netizens who cursed me are now stunned. It's like they've been slapped hard across the face, and it stings. The tide in the comment section has shifted from one-sided hate to a tidal wave of fury. Holy crap, what a plot twist! This guy is absolute trash. He actually hits his wife? That mother-in-law is vicious. She deserves this. My heart aches for this poor victim. We were wrong. We attacked the wrong person. Dox him. And that evil mother-in-law. Make them face social annihilation. Outraged netizens, using yesterday's tactics, are now launching a full-scale assault on Guiyanji and Wang Guilan. Their phone numbers, home addresses, workplaces, everything has been exposed. And those self-media accounts that spread the fake news yesterday, in a desperate attempt to save their own skins, are now digging even deeper for dirt on the Gu family. I didn't have to lift a finger for this slap. It landed louder and felt more satisfying. I let public opinion lift them to the clouds, only to drag them down into hell myself. Right now, still sleeping in that tent outside the company building, sweetly dreaming of their victory, Guiyanji and Wang Guilan probably have no idea what kind of judgmental storm is about to hit them. Guiyanji and Wang Guilan were jolted awake when they frantically opened their phones and saw the flood of reverse news and footage. Their faces instantly drained of all color, deathly pale. They knew it. It's over. Wang Guilan collapsed right there on the spot, sitting on the ground, wailing and sobbing. This time, the tears were real. Guiyanji looked like a rooster with its neck wrung. Mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. The public opinion war he was so proud of, he didn't just lose. He was utterly, completely annihilated. He's made himself a laughingstock for the whole world. Soon, company security and the police arrived on the scene. Citing a disturbance of public order, they were politely invited to the police station. And this was just the beginning. At 10:30 a.m., Guiyanji received a call from his company's HR director. The voice on the other end was ice cold, devoid of any warmth. Guiyanji, in light of your domestic violence incident, which has caused extremely severe negative impact on the company's image, the board of directors has decided your contract is terminated, effective immediately. You have 3 days to clear out your desk. Guiyanji was completely stunned. He had worked his way up at this prestigious architecture firm to become design director, pulling in $500,000 a year. This was the source of all his pride. He always thought he earned it all on his own merit. He roared into the phone. You can't fire me. Domestic violence is private. What does that have to do with the company? I'll sue you. I'll take this to labor arbitration. A cold laugh came from the other end. Suit yourself. But let me remind you, Director Gu, think hard. Who was it that went against all odds to pull you from being a nobody junior designer and fast-tracked you to your current position? Think harder. Those major projects you were in charge of, weren't the bidding processes a little too smooth? It hit Guiyanji like a thunderbolt. A terrifying thought surfaced in his mind. He remembered, not long after we got married 3 years ago. His career at the company took off like a rocket. He thought it was his exceptional talent, his lucky break. Now it dawned on him. Those so-called opportunities, all too convenient. He trembled. Was it Shen Wanqing? Took you long enough to figure it out. Too late. The other end hung up. Guiyanji clutched his phone. Standing there utterly devastated. All his pride, the masculine ego he lived by, in that moment, was shattered to pieces. Everything he was so proud of was nothing but my casual handouts. Like a madman, he called his brothers and connections to all those subordinates who used to kiss up to him. But the attitude on the other end, without exception, turned cold and distant. Hello? Oh, Director Gu, sorry, I'm in a meeting right now. Let's talk later. Yanji, buddy, your situation is just too hot right now. Let's not be in touch for a while. Gotta lay low. Director Gu? Wrong number. He doesn't work here. When the wall falls, everyone pushes. For the first time, he truly felt it. Stripped of his identity as Shen Wanqing's husband. How utterly powerless and insignificant he was. His entire social network, in an instant, was silently, completely severed by me. This was a punishment crueler than any physical torture. Social death. I wanted him to understand. Everything he ever had, I gave him. And now, I'm taking it all back. Piece by piece. That very afternoon, Shen Yanzhou's assistant. He sent me a report. The report detailed Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan's current situation. After being lectured at the police station, they were released, but they had nowhere to go. My apartment, under the lawyer and property manager's supervision, had its locks changed to the highest grade smart locks. All their belongings were packed into a few cheap woven bags and dumped by the trash cans at the community entrance. Wang Guilan tried to go back to her family, but her own sister-in-law kicked her out, saying she was afraid of being tainted by her infamous sister-in-law. The two of them, like stray dogs, dragged their luggage, wandering the city streets. In the end, they found shelter in the cheapest motel. The report ended with a photo. In it, Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan sat in a dim motel room, silently facing instant noodles, despair and confusion. I felt not a shred of pity. This was just the tip of the iceberg. The real wealth storm that would plunge them into the abyss was still to come. While Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan were worrying about survival, I was in Shen Group's top-floor office in the city, reviewing an asset evaluation report on the Gu family, with Shen Yanzhou. Gu Yanji's father, Gu Jiangwo, ran a small building materials company. This company was the Gu family's only financial lifeline. They thought that even if Gu Yanji lost his job, they could still live comfortably off this company. Unfortunately, they didn't know. The lifeline of this company had been in my hands from the very beginning. Jiangwo's biggest client was Grand Vision Construction, accounting for 70% of their annual business. Shen Yanzhou's finger tapped lightly on the report. He said casually, and Grand Vision Construction is a subsidiary of our group, fully acquired just last month. I nodded, picking up the thread. Also, the three banks providing loans to Jiangwo Building Materials. Arshan Holdings is their largest VIP client and strategic partner. That's the power of capital, an invisible net. I've laid the groundwork for 3 years. My original intention was to give the Gu family a little boost, so they could live a bit better, to reduce their demands and exploitation. It only became a breeding ground for their greed. Now it's time to pull the net tight. I pick up the phone and call the legal director of Shen Group, Director Zhang, about the Grand Vision Agreement and Jiangwo Building Materials. We can initiate Plan B now. Understood, Mississippi. The so-called Plan B is a unilaterally prepared termination notice, based on contract loopholes. Then a 6 million liquidated damages claim. I dial the number of the group's finance director. Director Lee, you can notify those 3 banks to conduct a risk reassessment on Jiangwo Building Materials and demand they recall all loans immediately. Yes, miss. Consider it done. 2 phone calls. Barely a minute in total. But for the Gu family, this is the final judgment from a commercial empire. Gu Jiangwo received the call during a business dinner from Grand Vision's purchasing manager. The tone was unprecedentedly cold and formal. Mr. Gu, I regret to inform you that, due to severe quality issues with your last batch, our company has decided to unilaterally terminate all cooperation with your company, effective immediately. Termination letter and a demand for 6 million damages have been delivered to your office. The wine glass in Gu Jiangwo's hand shattered into pieces as it hit the floor. Before he could even process this devastating news, the bank calls started pouring in, one after another. Mr. Gu? I'm the credit department manager from Construction Bank. Following our risk assessment, your company's operational status presents significant risk. We now require your company to repay the entire 2 million loan within 3 days. Otherwise, we will initiate asset seizure procedures. Mr. Gu. This is ICB. Mr. Gu, this is Agricultural Bank. Each call felt like a sledgehammer, pounding directly on Gu Jiangwo's heart. Client termination, bank loans recalled, a 6 million claim. 9 million in loan repayments demanded. A massive debt of 15 million descended like a mountain, crushing him instantly. Gu Jiangwo's vision went black. He fainted. The dinner party descended into chaos. That very night, Gu Jiangwo was rushed to the hospital. The diagnosis, acute myocardial infarction. He needs an emergency bypass surgery. The cost is 350,000. When Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan rushed to the hospital after the call, what they saw was their father, lying in the ICU, tubes running all over his body, and a $350,000 bill demanding payment. They searched through all their pockets. All their cards only had 2,000. Wang Guilan completely broke down. She grabbed Gu Yanji's arm, clutching at her last lifeline, screaming hysterically, "Son, what do we do? We don't have the money. Your father will die. You have to go. Go find Shen Wanqing. Go beg her. Only she can save us now." The color drained from Gu Yanji's face. Go find Shen Wanqing. Go beg that woman. The one he personally beat, the one his whole family humiliated. His pride, his male ego, wouldn't let him bow his head. But, staring at his father on the brink in the ICU, staring at that cold, hard bill, all his dignity seemed so pathetic. In the face of reality's iron fist, his ridiculous pride was smashed to pieces. I wanted to show him just like this, your so-called dignity is worthless in front of me. I can give you everything, and I can take it all away. In absolute despair. A person's dignity is so fragile. Gu Yanji finally called me. The moment the call connected, I could clearly hear his suppressed breathing on the other end, and Wang Guilan's broken sobs in the background. Wanqing. His voice was hoarse and dry, with a barely perceptible tremor. My dad. Dad's critically ill, needs emergency surgery. Surgery costs 350,000. We can't afford it. Could you? The words that followed seemed to choke on his shame. I didn't speak. I just listened quietly. On the other end, Wang Guilan seemed to snatch the phone. She screamed into the receiver, Shen Wanqing. You jinx. This is all your fault. If it weren't for you, how could our family end up like this? I'm telling you. If anything happens to my husband, even if I become a ghost, I won't let you go. You have to get the money. You have to save him. Hear that? That's Wang Guilan. Even at a time like this, she doesn't think to plead. She cursed and threatened. I just laughed coldly. My voice was calm, like a stagnant pool of dead water. Mrs. Wang Guilan, first of all, your husband's illness is due to Gu family mismanagement. Your own greed and mismanagement. I have no obligation, nor any interest, to pay the medical bills for someone to assault me. Third, if you continue to speak to me in that tone, I can't guarantee that something worse won't happen to your Gu family. My words were like a bucket of ice water, dumped right over Wang Guilan's head. She was stunned, as if she hadn't expected me to be so unyielding. The phone was passed back to Gu Yanji. Wanqing, I'm begging you. For our time as husband and wife. I repeated the phrase softly, finding it utterly ridiculous. Gu Yanji, when you grabbed my hair and slammed it against the wall, did you ever think about us being husband and wife? When your mother publicly humiliated my parents, did you ever think about us being husband and wife? Now that you need money, now you remember we were married? Every word I spoke was like a knife. A direct stab to his heart. He fell silent. Only heavy breathing remained. Not a scent. I delivered my final ultimatum. But, I can point you in a direction. What? What direction? He sounded like a drowning man, clutching at the last straw. Go find my parents. I said slowly. Go to the countryside and find them. If you can kneel before them, Sincerely kowtow and admit your wrongs, and earn their forgiveness. Then perhaps I might consider it. I hung up the phone directly. Of course, I didn't actually intend for them to beg my parents. My parents are kind and simple people. I would never let them be harassed in any way by the Gu mother and son again. I said it because I know. With Gu Yanji and their self-righteous sense of superiority, making them kneel to my parents would be worse than death for them. I also know that, backed into a corner, they won't choose to beg. They'll choose to take. They'll think. My parents are easy targets, my weak spot. That by controlling my parents, they can force me to comply. That was the final trap I set for them. A trap that preys on human nature. As expected. After I hung up, Guyanji and Wang Guilan erupted into a fierce argument in the hospital hallway. An intense argument erupted in the hospital hallway. All of this, it's all under Shen Yanzhou's team's real-time surveillance. Me? Go kneel and beg those two country bumpkins? Not a chance. Wang Guilan's voice screeches like it could shred the sky. Who do they think they are? They're unworthy. What now? Dad needs that money. Gu Yanji roars in frustration. Go find them. In Wang Guilan's eyes, a ruthless plan, we'll take it. We get our hands on those two old fools. And that little bitch Shen Wanqing. She'll have to pay. Her priority is those hick parents of hers. Greed is their original sin. And that sin is about to lead them to open the gates of hell with their own hands. I watch their ugly faces on the monitor, my expression utterly cold. I dial Shen Yanzhou's number. Second brother, they've taken the bait. Pull in the net. The moment Gu Yanji and Wang Guilan set off for the countryside, a net woven specifically for them had already begun to close. Shen Yanzhou's team works with terrifying efficiency. They leaked my parents' location at the old house to Yanji through a kindly, distant relative. In reality, my parents were moved by Shen Yanzhou's people to a secure city sanatorium the day this started, receiving the best possible care. That old country house is now just a carefully staged set, waiting for the leads to make their entrance. Meanwhile, a detailed background report on Gu Yanji lands in my hands. Sitting on the hotel suite sofa, I flip through it page by page, a cold smirk growing deeper on my lips. Gu Yanji, I really underestimated you. The report shows. Not only was Gu Yanji screwing around behind my back with some new intern at the company, but he was also using the money I transferred for household expenses to rent a luxury apartment for that homewrecker and buy her designer bags. If it was just the affair, that would still be within my expectations. After all, a man who can raise a hand to his wife treats loyalty like a joke. But what truly shocks me is the latter part of the report. Gu Yanji has developed a gambling addiction. He started getting hooked on online sports betting a year ago. Small bets at first, but the losses kept piling up. A bigger bet sank him deeper. And now, he's out there with a staggering 8 million in gambling debt. To plug that hole, he started using his position to embezzle company project funds. Report shows transaction discrepancies. Each one's a sickening sight. Why he was so desperate to get the money, to stay married after beating me. It was never about his father's medical bills. It's because the loan sharks had given him a final deadline. He saw me as his last ATM. Looking at the report's photos of him cozying up with his mistress, staring at those horrifying gambling debt records, the last shred of pity I had for this marriage vanished completely. I even felt relieved. Glad he hit me at that party. If he hadn't pushed me, I might have stayed trapped in my own fairy tale romance, letting this man, this viper, suck me completely dry. My assistant walked in, handing me a file, her expression serious. Miss Shen, this is what we found on the creditors holding Gu Yanji's gambling debts. The main one is a local underground loan shark named Brother Long. He's got a crew of ruthless thugs working for him, real vicious types. Our sources indicate they're already planning to move against Guyenji. I took the file, flipping through it casually. Perfect, I said. Send an anonymous copy of this background report on Guyenji to this Brother Long. My assistant looked confused. Miss Shen, why would you? I smiled, a cold edge to it. Guyenji claims he has no money to pay, right? Helping him find a motivated creditor. Brother Long will be much more interested in collecting from the Gu family. I want every profit-hungry hound to catch the scent of the Gu family's rotting carcass. I want them to tear each other apart fighting over it. My assistant instantly understood my plan. A flicker of awe crossed her eyes. Yes, Miss Shen. On it. Outside, night fell. I could almost see it. A beat-up old sedan, carrying Guyenji and Wang Guilan's greed and stupidity, speeding headlong down the road to hell. And what they were clutching in their hands. My ticket to that hell. The night was pitch black. Out on the country road, no streetlights made it feel even darker. A rundown domestic car, its high beams on, like a one-eyed beast, lurched along the bumpy dirt path. Bumping along the road. Guyenji gripped the steering wheel, his palms slick with sweat. Beside him, Wang Guilan looked on edge. She kept peering nervously out the window. Yenji, are you sure this is the right place? It's way too remote. There's not a soul in sight. Wang Guilan's voice trembled, with a hint of fear. The GPS says it's here. That distant relative said. Shen Wanqing's house is at the very end of the village. A 2-story cottage with 2 big pagoda trees at the gate. Guyenji tried to psych himself up. He pressed the accelerator down harder. To scrape together the travel money for this trip to the countryside, they'd pawned everything of value they owned, including that gold bracelet Wang Guilan had bragged about for half her life. Now, they had nothing left. This was their final gamble. In their minds, country folks were timid and easily scared. All they needed was to hire a few local thugs to intimidate Shen Wanqing's simple, honest parents. They'd have them eating from their hands. Record a video, send it to Shen Wanqing, and she'd be forced to hand over the money. They'd already contacted some local punks. They met at the village entrance. The car stopped at the edge. In the distance, they spotted the glowing red tips of cigarettes, flickering in the dark. Guyenji parked the car. 3 young men in tight shirts, tattoos on display, swaggered over. The leader had bleached blonde hair. You Mr. Gu? Yeah, that's me. Guyenji handed an envelope out the car window. It held their last $8,000. Brother Blondie, we're counting on you. Blondie hefted the money and stuffed it into his pocket, satisfied. Relax. Just scaring a couple of old geezers? Piece of cake. You can trust us to get the job done. The group, 3 motorcycles. The noisy procession rumbled toward the village heart. None of them noticed. On a hillside not far behind them, a high-performance drone equipped with night vision was silently circling, transmitting everything crystal clear to a hotel suite 1,000 miles away. I watched those ugly faces on the screen, my expression completely blank. Shen Yanzhou sat across from me, casually sipping a glass of red wine. A few low-life scumbags. Want me to send someone to clean them up? His tone was as casual as asking if he should squash a few bugs. No. Second brother, I shook my head. I don't want to get your hands dirty. Besides, the best part of the show should be saved for last. On the screen, Guyenji and his crew had already arrived in front of my old family home. It was a beautiful 2-story house. 2 ancient scholar trees by the gate, rustling in the night breeze. The house had warm lights on inside. Clearly someone was home. The punk gave Guyenji a look, then waved his hand, leading his 2 lackeys. With one kick, they smashed open the unlocked courtyard gate and charged in aggressively. Guyenji and Wang Guilan stayed hidden in the car, watching nervously. Kick the door in. The punk's arrogant shout echoed from the courtyard. Then came a loud bang. The main door of the old house was kicked wide open. The punk took the lead, charging in with his lackeys, and then, nothing. The courtyard instantly fell into dead silence. Not even a single scream. Inside the car, Guyanji and Wang Guilan looked at each other in confusion. They had no idea what was happening. What's going on? Why is it so quiet? Wang Guilan asked nervously. Guyanji also felt something was wrong. Summoning his courage, he pushed the car door open. He cautiously entered the courtyard. He saw a scene he would never forget for the rest of his life. The courtyard was brightly lit. The punk and his 2 lackeys lay on the ground like 3 dead dogs, completely unconscious. And surrounding them stood over 20 burly men. Their faces stern and cold, dressed in black. These men wore the same uniforms as the bodyguards. They appeared at the banquet, like hell's messengers. Standing in small groups, silent. At the front was Shenyanzhou's head of security. Seeing Guyanji walk in, a cold smile flickered across his face. Then, he slowly raised his walkie-talkie. Mr. Shen. The fish is in the net. Guyanji's brain. He short-circuited, staring at the courtyard. At the 20-plus fierce bodyguards in black. At the 3 motionless punks on the ground. A chill shot through him. This wasn't a trap. What was it, then? He wanted to run, but his legs. His feet felt like lead. Security approached. Each step feeling like it was crushing his heart. Mr. Gu. My employer would like a word. Bodyguards grabbed Guyanji like a chicken. They pinned his arms on either side and dragged him into the house. From the car, Wang Guilan saw this. She was scared out of her mind, letting out a shriek. She desperately tried to start the car and flee. But the moment she hit the gas, all 4 tires hissed and blew out at once, instantly going flat. Several bodyguards, who had appeared out of nowhere, had used military-grade tire spikes to cut off her escape. Wang Guilan was yanked, screaming, from the car. She cried, struggled, and was finally dragged into that old house, which to her was nothing less than a living hell. The living room of the old house had lost all its former warmth. On the central wall hung a massive LCD screen. On it was the handsome, ice-cold face of Shenyanzhou. He sat on a luxurious leather sofa, the glittering city nightscape behind him. He looked like a god on high, gazing down indifferently at the screen. At these 2 pathetic insects, Guyanji and Wang Guilan, forced to kneel before the screen. Shenyanzhou. Guyanji's voice trembled uncontrollably. What do you want? I'm warning you, kidnapping is a crime. A supremely mocking smile curled at the corner of Shenyanzhou's lips. A crime, Mr. Gu? You brought thugs in the dead of night to break into a private home, attempting to kidnap 2 elderly people to threaten my sister. And now you want to talk to me about the law? His voice was low, but carried a chill that pierced to the soul, making Guyanji and Wang Guilan shiver in terror. No. That's not it. We were just coming to explain the misunderstanding to our in-laws. Wang Guilan was still making futile excuses. Explain? Shenyanzhou's gaze shifted to her. He looked at her like she was already dead. With a crowbar and machetes? A bodyguard stepped forward and dumped the tools of the crime, found in the punks' cars, with a clatter right in front of them. Seeing those glinting, cold steel weapons, Wang Guilan's excuses died in her throat. Guyanji knew further lies were pointless. He looked up, staring at Shenyanzhou on the screen. His eyes filled with fear and confusion. Who are you? Shen Wanqing, just who the hell is she? That's the real question burning inside him. How could some nobody from the sticks, a basic office worker, have a brother with this kind of reach? Shenyanzhou seems to find the question laughable. He doesn't answer. He just slowly raises his wine glass to the screen, and to Guyanji groveling on the floor. He gives a slight, mocking tilt. You don't need to know who I am. All you need to know is this. The moment you laid a hand on my sister, your entire Gu family was handed a death sentence. Touch my family, you die. That final word. He says it so casually. Yet it drips with a bloody, absolute finality. Guyanji, and Wang Guilan's last shred of defiance, shatters into a million pieces right then. Wang Guilan's eyes roll back in her head, and she just faints dead away. Guyanji collapses into a puddle of pathetic mush. The stench of urine fills the air from his pants. He actually pissed himself. I sit before the hotel screen, watching it all with cold detachment. This is the man I once loved. A coward with no backbone. Not even a flicker of courage when faced with real power. I'm disgusted by my own stupidity over the last 3 years. The video call ends. The head bodyguard steps forward, looking down at the limp mess that is Guyanji. He gives his men an emotionless wave. Clean this up. Darkness swallows this stupid, greedy mother and son whole. And what awaits them is something even longer than death. The full weight of the law. While Guyanji and Wang Guilan were being entertained at the old house, another trap was already snapping shut. The 3 punk thugs, subdued, wake up from their brief blackout to find themselves tied to chairs in a vast, empty warehouse. Dozens of stone-faced men in black suits surround them. Electric batons crackling with blue sparks in hand. These street toughs, all bullies who prey on the weak, have defenses thinner than tissue paper. It doesn't even take any real persuasion. They spill their guts like a busted bag of beans. They confess everything. Not only do they admit Guyanji and Wang Guilan hired them to kidnap the old man, they volunteer every single illegal job they've ever pulled, including but not limited to inciting violence, extortion, and the head of security recorded all their confessions. Then he dialed the police. Hello, 911? We've apprehended several suspects. They're involved in multiple criminal cases. When the police arrived, 3 thugs, terrified, bawling their eyes out, and a pile of neatly organized evidence of their crimes. Witnesses. Physical evidence all there. Home invasion, kidnapping, Guyanji's plan, and Wang Guilan was laid out crystal clear. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Loan Shark boss Longa got that too. Anonymous background report on Guyanji. When he saw the words Shin Holdings, billion-dollar assets, report's ex-wife made his eyes gleam greedily. $8 million gambling debt? For Shin Holdings, that's not even a drop in the bucket. Longa felt he had hooked a whale of a catch. He immediately gathered all his men, storming over to the hospital where Gu Jiangwo was staying. However, when they got there, they found the place empty. Gu Jiangwo, along with all the direct relatives of the Gu family, taken for questioning over kidnapping. Longa lost money, caught red-handed by police on scene, because he was causing a disturbance at the hospital with his crew. Following the trail, all the evidence of illegal lending and violent debt collection, his operation was scooped up by cops. Every black and gray connection tied to the Gu family. I cleaned him out with borrowing a knife to kill. But the truly fatal blow came from the authorities. The next morning, Shen Yanzhou's legal team walked into Economic Crime Division Procuratorate, carrying a thick stack of documents. These documents contained bank statements, internal accounts show Guyanji embezzled funds to the tune of $5 million. Evidence of Guyanji's involvement in commercial fraud, cheating business partners out of millions in contracts. The complete chain of evidence, including witnesses and physical proof, showing Guyanji and Wang Guilan instigating thugs in an attempt to kidnap a businessman and selling shoddy goods as quality products. Every piece of evidence was like a nail. Physical evidence. Jiangwo Construction's tax evasion. All illegal records of using substandard materials as quality ones. Every piece of evidence is like a nail, nailing the Gu family firmly to the pillar of legal judgment. The evidence is overwhelming, a web woven by the law, impossible to escape. It has completely ensnared the entire Gu clan. I look at the latest progress report handed to me by my assistant. A strange calm washing over me. For me, revenge isn't an emotional outburst, it's a meticulously planned operation. From PR to economic war, then legal reckoning. Every step is calculated, every move deliberate. I'm using the very rules they were so proud of to destroy them. Except My rules are the laws of this nation. And they? Under law, they'll pay the heaviest price for their stupidity, their greed, and their cruelty. The rest? I'll leave to time. I pick up my phone. Dialing my parents. Mom, Dad, it's all settled. I'll pick you up tomorrow and bring you home. Their voices choked with happy tears. My home? It was never in that cold, empty house. My home is where I am, with my parents, with my second brother. A brand new home, without Guyenji. Without Wang Guilan. Half a month later, the Gu family's case officially opened. In municipal intermediate court. Massive sums involved. The severity of the crimes, and the huge public outcry. The court decided to combine the divorce proceedings with the related criminal cases for a public trial. As the plaintiff and victim, I sat in the plaintiff's seat. Behind me was the top-tier legal team sent by Shenyanzhou, in the defendant's dock. The Gu family sat in a neat row. Gu Yanji, Wang Guilan, Gu Jiangwo, all clad in orange detention vests, their faces pale as ghosts. Their eyes vacant. Especially Gu Yanji. In just half a month, he'd wasted away, his hair half white. Looking 20 years older. The public gallery was packed. With media reporters, law students, and many citizens following the case online. The presiding judge struck the gavel, and the trial began. The entire proceeding was almost a one-sided annihilation. My legal team presented piece after piece of evidence, projecting them clearly for the entire court to see. That domestic violence video was shown publicly again. When the screen showed Gu Yanji grabbing my hair and slamming my head against the wall, a wave of suppressed sobs rippled through the courtroom. Next came the bank transaction records of Gu Yanji's embezzlement. It was him forging contracts and committing commercial fraud. His calls with that punk prove it. Hit like a sledgehammer, slamming down on the defendant's bench. Slammed into everyone's hearts. The Gu family's defense lawyer attempted a flimsy, pathetic defense. He claimed Gu Yanji's violence was a momentary lapse of judgment, a domestic dispute. My lawyer fired back immediately. The law bans all domestic violence. Is a crime. There is no excuse for a lapse of judgment. The defendant's actions constitute intentional assault. Gu Yanji embezzling company funds was for business liquidity? Please. What about his mistress's money? Like buying a Birkin and gambling millions. Also part of business liquidity? After a few rounds of this, the Gu family's lawyer was left speechless, completely defeated. Sweat pouring down his forehead, he finally gave up the defense. It was the defendant's turn to make a statement. Gu Jiangwo, due to his health, remained silent the whole time, just sighing over and over. Wang Guilan, on the other hand, went completely hysterical. Pointing at me, she screamed the vilest curses. Shen Wanqing, you poisonous witch. You're gonna die a horrible death. Our family was ruined by you, you jinx. I curse you. Her ranting was sharply stopped by the judge. And she was escorted out of the courtroom by the bailiffs. Finally, it was Gu Yanji's turn. He slowly rose to his feet. He stood up, his gaze crossing the entire courtroom. Until it landed on me. His expression was complex. Remorse, resentment, fear. But mostly, utter despair. I plead guilty. His voice was hoarse. I did it all. Everything. My parents had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry, Shen Wanqing. Looking at me, his legs suddenly gave way. In front of everyone. He dropped to his knees. Wanqing. I was wrong. Please, for the sake of the love we once shared. Spare my parents. They're innocent. I'll take all the blame. He sobbed, kowtowing like his life depended on it. If this had been 2 weeks ago, I might have felt a twinge of pity. But now? Looking at that pathetic face? All I felt was a cold, icy calm. Crocodile tears. Not worthy of an ounce of sympathy. I ignored him. I simply turned my gaze to the judge. This courtroom is not a stage for a sob story. It is a place for justice. The judge delivered the verdict. This court, having tried the case, the defendant, Gu Yanji, is found guilty of intentional assault, embezzlement, contract fraud, incitement to kidnapping, other charges. 15 years prison, 5 years no political rights. All personal assets are to be confiscated. The defendant, Wang Guilan, is found guilty of incitement to kidnapping and defamation, sentenced to 3 years in prison. The defendant, Gu Jiangwo, is found guilty of tax evasion, producing/selling substandard goods, 5 years prison. Additionally, fined 10 million yuan. Furthermore, this court rules in favor of the plaintiff, Shen Wanqing's petition for divorce from the defendant, Gu Yanji. All marital property under Gu Yanji's name is deemed illicit gains and is to be seized. Shen Wanqing's premarital property is protected. The gavel falls. Case closed. Gu Yanji hears the verdict, his vision goes dark, and he collapses straight to the floor. In the public gallery, muffled applause breaks out. I stand up, bow deeply to the bench, then turn and walk out of the solemn courtroom without looking back. Outside, the sun is shining. I know my life has just turned a brand new page. And the final act of the Gu family's destruction is about to begin. The court's judgment is the legal finale of the Gu family's downfall, but it's not the end of this real-life circus. As I followed Shen Yanzhou, surrounded by bodyguards, out the courthouse doors, I was immediately drawn to the chaotic scene before me. In the courthouse square, a spectacular drama of kicking someone when down. Leading the charge was Gu Yanji's pregnant intern mistress. She'd brought her parents and a few relatives, holding up a banner that read, Gu Yanji abandoned his wife and unborn child. Give back my youth. Wailing at courthouse. Spotting the Gu family members being escorted out by bailiffs, she lunged at them like a madwoman. She grabbed Gu Yanji's sister, Gu Shaoling, scratching and clawing. Your family lied to me. You promised he'd marry me after the divorce. Now he's in prison. What am I supposed to do with this baby? You have to give me an answer. Gu Shaoling, already distraught over the family's troubles, snapped. The two women immediately started brawling, rolling on the ground in an utterly disgraceful spectacle. Then, another group charged forward. Leading them was the guy whose operation the police had just busted. Bailed loan shark boss Long showed up. He brought over a dozen of his thugs, looking absolutely vicious. They surrounded Gu's relatives in a tight circle. Long grabbed Gu Yanji's uncle by the collar. His huge hand came down with 2 sharp slaps. The uncle saw stars. Damn it. When are you paying back the 800,000 you owe me from gambling, huh? Don't think just because Gu Yanji's in jail this is over. Father's debt, son pays. Husband's debt, wife pays. Every single one of you Gus better pay up today, or nobody's leaving. Terrified relatives paled at the sight. And no, it's not our business. Gu Yanji borrowed the money, go get it from him. Yeah, we have nothing to do with them anymore. Long let out a cold laugh. You lived high on their money. You didn't say that. Boys, search M. Strip M of everything valuable. Take it all. The thugs pounced like wolves. Wallets were snatched. Watches ripped off, necklaces torn away. The square erupted in cries, screams, and curses. It was pure chaos, like a boiling pot. Those very relatives who sneered at my parents, who strutted around so proudly at Gu Yanji's birthday party. Now they were disheveled, scrambling for cover. Pathetic, like stray dogs. I stood a short distance away, watching it all coldly through the wall of my bodyguards. Human nature, chase gain, avoid loss, turn with the wind. When the Gu family was on top, they were fawning lapdogs. When the Gu family fell, they were the first vultures picking at the carcass. I felt not a shred of pity. All of this was the karma they deserved. Shen Yanzhou opened the car door for me. His tall frame shielded me, cutting me off from the chaos behind. Don't look. It's an eyesore, he said softly. I nodded and got in. The car pulled away slowly, leaving the noise and ugliness far behind. In the rearview mirror, I caught the final scene of this farce. The police and court officers finally moved in. They separated the brawling groups. Brother Long and his thugs, for inciting a riot and disturbing the peace, were taken away again. What awaited him was even harsher legal punishment. As for those Gu family relatives, bruised and battered, they slumped on the ground, utterly defeated. Their eyes were filled with confusion and regret. I looked away. I leaned back into the plush seat, closing my eyes. The storm that began with domestic violence is over. That swept through 2 families, a corporation, and even the underworld, has finally settled. Finally settled. The wicked have been judged. The greedy have lost everything. And I can finally begin a new life. 3 months later, at a top-tier charity gala in a seaside city, the spotlight shone as bright as day. I stood there in a perfectly tailored silver gown, hair swept up, revealing a graceful neck and delicate collarbones. The scar on my forehead was treated by the best cosmetic procedures. Had long since faded to near invisibility. I was no longer that timid, submissive Shen Wanqing, content to be ordinary. I stood on the gala's main stage as the CEO of Shen Holdings. Below me sat the elite, the powerful, the wealthy from across the nation. Their gazes held a mix of awe and intense curiosity. About me, the sensational divorce scandal 3 months ago, that rocked the city, had long since become legend in their circles. They knew. The seemingly young, beautiful woman before them possessed a will of iron and methods that struck like lightning. Her background was a mystery, unfathomably deep. I ignored those probing stares. I simply walked calmly to the podium, faced the microphone, and offered a composed, confident smile. Distinguished guests, good evening. I am Shen Wanqing. My voice, amplified, filled the entire banquet hall. I stand here today, not as the CEO of Shen Holdings, but as an ordinary woman, a survivor of domestic violence. That single sentence. A shockwave hit the room. I gave them no time to murmur. I continued, 3 months ago, I endured a period of profound darkness. That experience made me realize that in this world, there are many women just like me, suffering dual torments of body and mind. They are helpless, terrified, unsure how to protect themselves. Their silence, their endurance, does not bring peace to the home, but only invites escalating cruelty. Therefore, I have decided to act. I paused, my gaze sweeping the room, my voice firm and resolute. I announce that I am personally funding, with 10 billion, the establishment of the Wanqing Women's Protection Fund. The fund's mission: we provide free legal aid, counseling, and emergency shelter to every woman across the nation suffering from domestic violence, and vocational skills training. We want every woman who has been hurt to pick up the weapon of the law and defend her own dignity, to step out of the shadows and embrace the sunlight once more, to master a skill and achieve financial independence, to start a brand new life. As I finished speaking, the entire hall fell into a brief silence. Thunderous applause erupted. I looked at the faces below, some moved, some approving, some deep in thought, and felt a profound sense of peace. Revenge was never my ultimate goal. Transforming past pain into a force to protect others, that is my true redemption. In a corner of the banquet hall, Shen Yanzhou held a glass of champagne, watching me under the spotlight. A look of satisfied pride spread across his face. He knew. His sister finally found her true self. She was no longer a harbor seeking shelter for some man. She was the vast, boundless ocean, and stir up mighty waves. After the banquet ended, my assistant handed me a brief report. It was the latest update on the Gu family. Gu Yanji was behaving decently in prison, but the long sentence had left him withdrawn and silent, his mental state in shambles. After Wang Guilan was released early, her criminal record barred her from any real job. She was reduced to scavenging through trash, a pitiful end. As for Gu Jiangwo, he suffered a sudden brain hemorrhage in prison. They couldn't save him. He's dead. After that whole spectacle, the other Gu relatives tore each other apart over debts and disputes. The family was ruined. I read the report, and not a single ripple stirred in my heart. Everyone's ending is the result of their own choices. I closed the tablet and looked out the window. The night sky was clear, stars glittering. I know my life is just beginning. I will spend the rest of it protecting more women. I'll make them understand one thing: every woman should have a line that no one, for any reason, gets to cross. When that line is crossed, don't be afraid. Don't back down. Stand up bravely and tell this world, I am my own queen.